All right, you guys, welcome back to the channel. I do believe I've had a eureka moment when it comes to um, this count all the way up to Shavuot. And of all people, it comes through Dr. Micheal Brown, you guys. So I got something I want to share with you. I think it's going to shed a lot of light on what I've been talking about. Okay. So I got a little clip that I want to play for you. Y'all sent this to me in the right time as I'm looking at these scriptures and I'm trying to reconcile step by step what is going on at Sinai and how we get um, this count because it has something to do with giving the law. Okay, that's always been known, right? So listen to what's being said here. I think you're going to see something really profound. And it's another witness to what I've been telling you already. So imagine my happiness. Let's just start right here. You've got the All right, so we got Dr. Micheal Brown and a couple of other Jewish believers in Yeshua. So all three of these guys were formerly, or they grew up Orthodox Jews, and now they believe in Yeshua, and they see a connection with the feast and with Yeshua. So all that is great. I love that. I love to see the passion and the look in their eyes when they're talking about the connection, right? So we can glean a lot from this. But what we can also notice is the man-made traditions that crept in. And you're going to see something of what I'm talking about right here. Orthodox rabbis, and the long beards and the black coats. This whole kind of presence, but it wasn't the big social thing. No, in fact, it's like, okay, so we're talking about Shavuot or Pentecost, right? And the connection to the giving of the law. All right.
No bar mitzvah suit. Some of the kids are wearing jeans, some shorts, but they have the talit on them. They're wrapped in the 613 commandments of the law. That's 613 knots.
That's the symbolism that people use with a prayer shawl. Yeah.
Yeah. And there they are reading the Torah. And I think as we watch this ceremony, it shows the centrality of the Torah for the Jewish people. And of course, the holiday that celebrates the giving of the law of Moses, the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, is the holiday called Shavuot, or the Feast of Weeks.
Yes.
There's a reason for the festival of Shavuot.
And originally, the Bible doesn't mention the giving of the law at that time. That's something later the rabbis deduced, and it seems to be about that. And I can show you why they deduced that. I'm going to show you in Exodus 19. We can track the Hebrews from the Exodus all the way to Mount Sinai, right? And so we're going to look on Google Earth at the actual Mount Sinai, the one that is in Arabia, not in Egypt. We're also going to be looking at Exodus and a couple other things that I got for you. And then I'm going to put it all together of why we ended up where we are today. It's very profound, you guys. It just has nothing to do with wheat nowadays. Every time I get pictures around the middle of May and people say, see, Jonathan, they're harvesting wheat in Israel. And I look at it and I look how they're harvesting and I look at the grain and I say, no, that's not wheat, that's barley. And it's at 50 days. So it's impossible for it to be wheat. Now, remember that I've told you that over and over again, over and over again. And of all people, Dr. Brown and his colleagues here are going to lay down some truth for you here in just a moment. That same time. So that's how it became the celebration of the giving of the Torah. But in the Bible itself, it follows Passover, and it's part of an agricultural.
How many days after Passover?
It's 50 days.
50 days after Passover.
And that's where we get Pentecost.
It's as the English name for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, 50.
So agriculturally here in Israel, you have first fruits,
Listen.
which would be the first agricultural holiday, because the grain is still green.
All right. First fruits. First fruits. Now he's talking about barley right here. Okay. He's talking about barley. Listen to what he says.
The barley is still green.
It's still green at Abib time when the wave sheet. It's not harvest time. It's this we're giving thanks for something that's still green, right? We still got to wait for that to be golden, just like wheat, to be harvested. You know how many more days it is? 50 days. Okay, listen.
You start getting the ripening of the barley 50 days later. It's around the time now of this. So this is the first kind of grain holiday, agriculturally speaking.
All right, just in case you missed that, let's back up a little bit and listen to that
In
again.
Israel, you have first fruits, which would be the first agricultural holiday, because the grain is still green. The barley is still green. But when you start getting the ripening of the barley 50 days later, it's around the time now of this. So this is the first kind of grain holiday, agriculturally speaking, where you can make bread, you can rejoice, you can thank God for giving food and harvest for another year.
When you present to the Lord an offering of new grain during the Festival of Weeks, hold a sacred assembly and do no regular work. Present a burnt offering of 2 young bulls, 1 ram, and 7 male lambs a year old, as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. Numbers chapter 28.
Now remember, this was done at the temple. Shavuot was one of the feasts that you had to come to Jerusalem. And does it make sense, folks, that if you had to come during Passover and then you got to come right back in 50 days? One of my students brought that up last night in class, that or the other day in class. That doesn't make any sense, right? But that's just the least of it. You just heard him say that the first fruits offering that was giving at a beep time, or excuse me, at wave sheaf offering time, right? First fruits. It's still green, and it takes another 50 days for you get a harvest. Now, this is the first harvest of the season. Okay, barley is always harvested first, and then you move into what is harvested in the summertime. Now, why he says that this is the giving of the law, we're going to read that in just a minute in Exodus, and we're going to kind of track this all the way to the mountain and counting the days there, because it actually gives us days of the month and how many days Moses went up and stuff like that. And you're going to see something really profound. Now, they say this is the celebration of the giving of the law, all right?
Pentecost,
and he gives us a chart here where we're seeing the months, the Gregorian months, and where they're placing Pentecost, which is toward the end of May. Some people start doing it the middle of May, right? Again, this is when barley is being harvested completely, all right? We still got a ways to go before we start harvesting wheat. Wheat is going to be harvestable about the middle of July to the middle of August is when that's started, but it runs all the way into October, okay, for that harvest.
The Feast of Weeks, or Shavuot in Hebrew, is one of the 7 feasts aligned with the agricultural cycle of Israel. The book of Deuteronomy lists 7 varieties that represent the produce of the promised land. Because of the fragile ecosystem of this region, an agricultural drama plays out each year between the land of Israel, the people of Israel, and the God of Israel.
The most crucial season for the 7 varieties, for the wheat and the barley, the grapes, figs, pomegranates, olive oil, and date.
That's going to be the former rain and the latter rain. She's going to tell you the former rain and the latter rain. We reread this in the text. These are critical points in the ecology and the growth cycles over in Israel.
Honey, are the 2 months of April, May between Passover and Shavuot or Pentecost. During those 2 months, we have 2 major phenomena of weather in Israel. The first is called a chamsin, which is a hot, dry wind that blows from the east-southeast, raising temperatures easily within a few hours in Fahrenheit degrees by 15, 20 degrees, and lowering humidity to below 15%. Now, both these aspects are terribly important for the pollination of the fruit.
And by the way, she's talking about a beeb time. A beeb time. Did you see that barley that she was showing there, the green barley? It's a beeb time, and that's when it's pollination. There's pollination going all over the place, right?
On the other hand, this hot, dry weather breaks, so to speak, by a change of the wind. The wind will then come from the west-northwest and bring with it not only clouds, but rain. Now, you can imagine the danger of what will happen if it rains right after a flower has opened, the pollen is exposed, and then the rain can literally wash the pollen off the stamens before the fertilization can occur. And that's it. I mean, once that's done in the end of April, early May, then even though we normally have our dates in late October, November, or our olives in from October to.
And by the way, you do not want rain during the time of your harvest. Harvesting golden wheat, it's not supposed to be raining. Okay.
December, if they weren't pollinated and fertilized properly in April, May, then you're not going to have any yield 4 or 5 months later. Now, it's not only that every day of that 7-week period is nerve-wracking, but every hour of every day, the farmer was an absolute nervous wreck. And it's all in the hands of God. There's nothing that we can do about it.
According to the law, or Torah, as it's called in
Listen.
Hebrew, if Israel remained obedient and if she loved God only, then by the time of the Feast of Pentecost, the barley would be ready to become bread.
Did you hear that? Did you hear what he just said? By the time, back it up, Jonathan. By the time Pentecost got here, the barley is ready to make bread.
There's nothing that we can do about it.
According to the law, or Torah, as it's called in Hebrew, if Israel remained obedient and if she loved God only, then by the time of the Feast of Pentecost, the barley would be ready to become bread.
During the time of are we making bread out of barley? And I understand that there probably is some confusion here because it's the only grain available really to make bread. But in ancient times, barley was not grown to make bread like it is now. It was grown to feed to animals primarily. Okay, and it was different than wheat in the sense that it only had to be winnowed. It didn't have to be threshed or anything like that. Okay, so they're making bread at 50 days for Shavuot out of barley. Why would that be in this presentation here? Because this is a Jewish presentation from believers of Yeshua, but they have taken traditions of the rabbis, and we see that today. Now, why is that?
Vineyards would be displaying leaves shading clusters of young grapes. Olives would be waiting patiently to ripen. Date palms reaching.
Now, this is at 50 days. The grapes aren't ready yet. The date palms are not, the dates aren't ready. All this is, listen to what he's saying. It's not ready yet. It's still got some time to go. You just heard what she said. It takes several more months when the spring rain comes.
Toward the sun would be filtering light, letting the dates mature slowly. Pomegranates would have begun to show color, and figs would also be poised for more growth. So by the time
this is your heart, this is what we're looking at for Shavuot time. Everything you see here, the wheat, the grapes, pomegranates, you've got gourds and melons in here, dates in here, olives in here, all in the summertime, you guys, not at 50 days now.
Time of Pentecost, all this produce served as a sign of blessing from the Lord, Israel's great provider.
Served as a sign of blessing, you guys. All right, so the giving of the law. All right, now you see that these believers in Yeshua that are Jewish have a tradition that counting of 50 days, and they're making bread out of barley. I mean, talk about Eureka moment. Okay. What does he mean by giving the law? Let's go there. All right, so remember in Exodus 16, we are just getting to Elim, and this is where we get the Sabbath. Exodus 16 is where you see the Sabbath, the first Sabbath that is celebrated or kept is the 22nd day of the month. Okay, here we are in the third month. In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, that the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and they had come into the desert of Sinai and had pitched their tents in the wilderness, and there Israel encamped before the mount. And Moses went up to Elohim, and the Adonai called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thus shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel,
Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. For all the earth is mine, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And these are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which Yah had commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yah had spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto Yah. And Yah said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told these words to the people, words of the people unto Yah. And the Adonai said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. Now, what day is this? All right, so if this is the 15th day, right, you can count here. On the 3rd day, he comes down, right? So that's going to be on the 18th day of the 3rd month, right? So technically, and this is where the rabbis get this. This is where Yah comes down and gives them the oral law. Okay, he's making a deal with them. He tells us, wash your clothes, right? They put a border around, the mountain. Yah tells them that they can't go to a certain place, and Mount Sinai was altogether on smoke. On a smoke, because Yah descended upon it in fire, and the smoke therefore ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. When the voice of the trumpet sounded long and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and Elohim answered him by a voice. And Yah came down upon Mount Sinai on top of the mountain, and Adonai called Moses up to the top of the mount, and Moses went up. And the Adonai said unto Moses, go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto Adonai to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also which come near to Yah sanctify themselves, let Yah break forth upon them. And Moses said unto the Adonai, thy people cannot come up to the mountain of Sinai, for thou charged us, saying, set bounds about the mount and sanctify it. And the Adonai said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee, but let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto Yah, lest they break forth upon them. So Moses went down unto the people and spoke to them. Okay, so where are we at here? Let's go over to the Google Earth. Because of archaeology, and people have gone here, we know exactly where all these places are that are spoken of in Exodus, right? So the Elim here, where the 30 date palms and the 12 wells, when they came up through these canyons, okay? Then in the wilderness of Sin, that is well known, all right? And then they were in Rephidim, and then the rock of Horeb, and then they found themselves, the angel leads them around to the wilderness of Sinai at the foot of the mountain. And it says that the fire burned the top of the mountain. Look at that, you guys. These are the top. And by the way, that looks like a border to me, where only the top of the mountain was. So they were not allowed, to go certain places. They couldn't. They had to stay in an area. And all around them, the mountain top burned with fire, and Yah was in the midst of them. So this is where we know is, the altar of Moses is built here. The golden calf altar is over here. People have gone there, taken pictures of it. I mean, they got it fenced off now, but there's petroglyphs on this thing, going way back. The altar of Moses is over here in this area where the animals were kept People have gone to all of these places. Moses went on top of the mountain. Jebel El Laws is the actual name of it, right? So that's where they are when all this is going on. So Moses goes up. Let's go back to the scripture. Moses is talking to the people. He hasn't even gone up the mountain and gotten tablets yet. So keep that in mind, right? When we look at this. Because Yah comes down. Yah descended upon it in fire, right? Let's go to the next. This is where he actually gives it to them. Exodus 20, the 10 Commandments. Right? We're not going to read that and go through all of that. I want you to see something, right? So this is still at the same time. Moses is not up on the mountain getting tablets. Yah has come down, right? And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood far off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak to us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for Yah has come to prove you. And that is his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not. And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where Elohim was, right? And Yah goes into, the rest of what he has for him. And Yah said unto Moses, Thou shalt say unto the people of Israel, Ye have seen what I have taken, you have seen that I have talked to you from heaven. Ye shall not make with me gods of silver. Ye shall not make unto you gods of gold, right? The altar of the earth thou shalt make unto me, and thou shalt sacrifice there. I showed you that, the altar on Google Earth there. So this is down at the bottom, okay? Exodus 21, more laws, all right? And these are more details, right? Like he that stealeth a man, selleth it, right? It's just a bunch of details, right? So remember that we're at 50. We're at month 3, right? And the 15th, which is we're in the middle of that, and then some time is passing, right? We're still getting laws here. This is all happening at the same time. Moses has not gone up yet, right? Still details that Moses is getting as Yah is down. Yah's given this orally. Gets to the Sabbath laws, right? And he starts talking about the Shemitah, the 7th year, that you should let the land rest, right? The 3 yearly feasts that we're supposed to come. My mustache is tickling my nose. 3 times a year you should keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days as I command thee, and in the appointed time of the month of Abib, for you that camest out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty, and the feast of harvest, of first fruits of thy labor, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is at the end of the year, and thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field 3 times in a year. All males shall stand before Yah your Elohim, right? Goes into more. This is where he says, Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, to bring thee to the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, right? So Yah's sending an angel to lead, all right? And by the way, they've been fighting giants and stuff out there too, the Hizzites, the Pezites, and let me just back up and show you that. Yah's promised to be with them during all this time where they're battling with the Amorites, the Hittites, the Canaanites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, right? And he warns them not to bow down to their gods and things like that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of blowing through this, but I want you to see something. The covenant is sealed. And then he said unto Moses, Come up unto Yah, thou and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, and worship ye afar off. And Moses alone shall come near Yah, but they shall not come nigh, neither shall the people go up with him. And Moses came and told the people all the words of Yah, and all the judgments, and all the people answered with one voice, and said, all the words which Yah had commanded, had said, we will do. What all words? All those verses that we blew through, all of that stuff that Yah was saying, you're not going to steal from your neighbor, and he gave all kinds of details, right? They said, we will do. And Moses wrote all the words of Yah, and rose up early in the morning and built an altar under the hill and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And by the way, you can still see those 12 pillars because people, go to those places that I just showed you on Google Earth. They take pictures and post them, and you can see the actual pillars are there, the white pillars. They're still there to this day, right? All right, so this is where he's sacrificing on the altar. Then went up Moses and Aaron. They saw God, and there was under his feet as a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand, and also they saw Yah and did not eat and drink. And Yah said unto Moses, come up to me on the mount. Now this is where Moses goes up now, right? Everything that we just saw, or all chapters we just kind of blew through there, Yah has come down and is giving them the oral law. That is true. So 50 days, you can say this is when Yah gave them the oral law. But it is not when he came down with the tablets of stone and the law and the commandments which I have written. Yah's going to write them himself, right? He's just now going up, right? So where are we at? Exodus 24. Come up to the mount, and there I will give thee tables of stone, and the law, and the commandments which I have written, and that thou may teach them. And Moses rose up, and his minister Joshua, and Moses went up unto the mountain of Elohim, right? So how long is he there? All right, so let's look at this. And he said unto the elders, tarry ye here for us until we come again unto you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. If any man have any matters to do, let him come unto them. And Moses went up into the mount, and a cloud covered the mount, and the glory of Yah abode upon Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And the 7th day he called unto Moses out of the middle of the cloud. Wonder what 7th day that was. And in the sight of the glory of Yah was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the children of Israel. And Moses went into the midst of the cloud and gat him up unto the mountain. It does say gat. And Moses was there on the mount 40 days and 40 nights. So look at that. All right, so they get there on the 15th. Yah says, I want you to wash yourself, sanctify yourself. I'm going to come down. He comes down on the 18th. All of this is given. All of this is given. And by the way, that's going to be right around the time that they keep the 50 days. That is true. All right. But then what happens? He goes up 40 days and another 40 nights. And this let's look at the calendar. At the 3rd month, middle of the month, because I want you to see where it puts us. If he goes up 40 days and 40 nights, and we're here, middle of the month, right about here, right? End of May, going into June, 40 days, right? So that would be another month. That's 30. And then what, 10 more days? Where's that putting us? Right early July. And then we still got 10 days, right? Because if it's 7 Sabbath complete and then 50 days, and we're talking about the real Shavuot, folks, look where that puts us. just by counting another 50 days, and when Moses comes down with the tablets after 40 days and 40 nights. That's going to put us in the month of Av. That's in the month of Av. You know what else happens in the month of Av? All right, so imagine this. Remember how I told you that everything stopped and changed at the destruction of the temple? When did that happen? It happened in the month of Av. You know what else was going on at the same time that Jerusalem was being sacked and overthrown? Festivals, feast times. Let's go to look at something about the siege of Jerusalem. The siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE was a decisive event of the First Jewish-Roman War, a major rebellion against the Roman rule in the province of Judea. Led by Titus, Roman forces besieged the Jewish capital, which had become the main stronghold of the revolt. After months of fighting, they breached the defenses and destroyed the Second Temple, razed most of the city, and killed and enslaved and displaced a large portion of its population. The fall of Jerusalem marked the effective end of the Jewish revolt and had far-reaching political and religious and cultural consequences. That's an understatement. In the winter of 69 to 70 CE, following a pause caused by a Roman succession war, the campaign in Judea resumed as Titus led at least 48,000 troops, including 4 legions and auxiliary forces, back into the province by spring. His army had encircled Jerusalem, whose population had surged with the refugees and the pilgrims of Passover inside the city. Imagine that. The city is getting flooded with all kinds of Jews coming from all over the place, which is easy pickings for the Romans, right? Inside the city, rival factions led by John of Gish, you see that, and these guys fought each other, destroying food supplies and weakening defenses. Although these factions eventually united and mounted fierce resistance, Roman forces breached the city walls and pushed back the defenders into the temple precincts. When the Romans finally took the Temple Mount in the summer month of Av, July, August, they destroyed the Second Temple, an event mourning annually in Judaism on Tisha B'Av. The rest of Jerusalem fell soon after, with tens of thousands killed, enslaved, and executed. The Romans systematically razed the city, leaving 3 towers of the Herodian citadel and sections of the wall showcase its former greatness. A year later, Vespasian and Titus celebrated a triumph in Rome, parading the temple spoils. Now, I want to go down just a little bit, because there's something that's really interesting there's a mention of Josephus and something that he says here. All right, but let me read this for. Before its destruction, Jerusalem served as a religious and national center of the Jewish people, both Judea and throughout the diaspora. By the outbreak of the Jewish revolt, the city had reached its peak in both size and population, making it one of the largest cities in the Roman East, covering approximately 450 acres, right? Nearly twice the size of the city's today's old city. Jerusalem is estimated to have housed tens of thousands of residents, with a population ranging from 25,000 to over 150,000. The Roman writer Pliny the Elder described Jerusalem in his time of destruction as by far the most famous city of the East. Jerusalem was divided in several districts, including the lower city and a densely populated area. The upper city, a wealthy quarter inhabited by Jerusalem's elite, including priestly families, and the Temple Mount, the religious and political heart of the city. As a heart stood the temple, the Second Temple, the center of the Jewish worship and national identity. Succeeded Solomon's temple, which was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. All right. The writings of the Greco-Roman historians attest to Jerusalem's significance and splendor, and the 2nd century BCE Greek historian however you say that, described the Jews as a nation residing around the temple called Jerusalem, while Tacitus A Roman historian from the 1st century CE wrote that Jerusalem and its capital of the Jews was a temple processing enormous reaches. Jewish sources likewise celebrate the grandeur of the city and its temple. One rabbinic tradition states that there is no beauty like the beauty of Jerusalem, while another declares he has not seen Jerusalem and its splendor, has never seen a beautiful city in its life. And he who has not seen the temple has, in its full construction, has never seen a glorious building in his life. During Judaism's 3 pilgrimage festivals, the holidays of Passover, Sukkot, and Shavuot, Jerusalem's population swelled as tens of thousands of visitors from Judea and from abroad traveled to the city to observe religious rituals in the temple. An obligatory half-shekel contribution was collected each year from Jewish adults in Judea and the diaspora for the temple. A steady influx of pilgrims to Jerusalem contributed to the city's economic prosperity and prominence. Josephus records several omens believed to have been foretold the destruction of Jerusalem in years preceding. Among those was a star resembling a sword which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year, linked by scholars to Halley's Comet, likely visible over Jerusalem during the winter and spring of 66 CE. Other report signs include light around the temple altar near Passover, a cow giving birth to a lamb, and the heavy eastern gate of the inner sanctuary opening on its own. Josephus also describes the appearance of heavenly armies in the sky before sunset. And during Shavuot, priests reportedly heard a loud noise, a crash, and a voice from the temple declaring, "We are departing from here." That happened at Shavuot. All right. So Jerusalem was being destroyed and sacked. Now, this is the time of harvest time. It is the same time that I'm trying to show you that Shavuot is celebrated, right? But it's also when they say that Yah gave the law. Well, he gave the oral. You know, when he gave the actual law and what they were doing, and it was really Shavuot. And I think why we can see a connection to the destruction of the temple, and why they do not celebrate Shavuot anymore at 102 days. Okay. Moses goes up on the mountain. And on the mountain, Yah gives him all the details, right? How to make the table of showbread, the golden lampstand, right? He's up there 40 days and 40 nights. We're going to fast forward here. All the details, how to make the curtains, the gold hair, the ephod, you know, the veil for the ark, he's getting instructions on all of this, how to do this. This takes 40 days and 40 nights, right? The bronze altar, the courtyard, all the details. Exodus 27, still on top of the mountain, right? The garments of the priest. In Exodus 28, the ephod, the breastplate, gives all this information to Moses while he's up there, right? Exodus 29, the priest, consecration of the priest, the order of the sacrifices, right? Still on top of the mountain. Food for the priest, daily offerings, and Yah will dwell with the people. Exodus 30, is that where we're coming back down? Nope, we're talking about the altar of incense. Atonement money, the bronze basin, the anointing oil, all this detail Moses is getting while he's gone. And they're worried. What is taking Moses so long? And they're starting to, get a little antsy, right? And some of the people are worried Moses is not coming back. He's not coming back. Exodus 31, the sign of the Sabbath. And Yah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, Verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between you and me throughout your generations. And ye may know that I am Yah that doth sanctify you. Ye shall keep the Sabbath, therefore, for it is holy unto you. Everyone that defile it should be surely put to death. Right? 6 days there may you work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath rest, holy unto Yah. Whosoever do any work on the Sabbath day, he shall be put to death. Right? Goes on. Moses receives the tablets. All right, so we're at chapter 31, 40 days, 40 nights. He's up on the mountain, right? So we're pushed into the time of Av, right? Into July, and he gave unto Moses when he had made an end of communing with him on top of the mountain. So 40 days and 40 nights is coming to an end right here at chapter 31, 2 tables of stone written by the finger of Elohim. Okay, next chapter. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, because he's been gone for 40 days and 40 nights, right? Right? And there's probably 10 days in there when Yah is giving him, when Yah's down the first time, giving him the oral. But make no mistake about it, when he comes down with the tablets, this is when they're getting the actual law in stone, right? We just saw that. What are they doing? And when they saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, and the people gathered themselves unto Aaron and said unto him, make us gods. What did Yah say right before Moses went up? Don't you make any gods out of silver and gold, right? It's sort of like telling a child, don't touch that, and then leaving the room, and what do? They touch that very thing that you say, don't do that, and they go and do that thing. Don't you know Yah knew that was going to happen? But he couldn't be mad at him if he had not come down and gave the oral, and Moses just went up and got the law, and then they start doing the bad thing with the calf, right? They haven't been told they've done anything wrong yet. Y'all had to tell them first, and then Moses goes up 40 days, 40 nights. He comes back down, and this is what they're doing. The man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him. And Aaron said unto them, break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives and your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me. And all the people broke off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them into Aaron, and received them in their hand, and fashioned with a graving tool. And he had made a molten calf, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast unto Yah. And they rose up early on the morrow and offered a burnt offering and brought a peace offering. So Aaron declares at this time, when they're doing the golden calf, tomorrow is a hug. It is a feast unto Yah. Now, if you do the count right, 102 days, it brings you to a new moon time. There is no moon. The moon is in conjunction at that time, if you do the count right? Okay. So Moses is told by Yah, and Yah said unto Moses, go get thee down for thy people. And let me just say this, all the way up until this point, Yah has been referring to them as my people. But as soon as they did what they did, Yah says, go get thee down, for thy people, which thou brought out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them, and they have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereon. And these be thy gods, O Israel. They have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. And Yah said unto Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now therefore let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them, and make an end of thee a great nation. And Moses besought Yah his Elohim, and said, Yah, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt, with great power and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak and say, for mischief did he bring them out? to slay them in the mountains and to consume them with from the face of the earth. Right? So Yah is mad. Okay? But even still, Moses pleads with Yah not to destroy the people. And then he goes down. He descends with the tablets, right? And Moses turned and went down from the mount. And the 2 tablets of testimony were in his hand. And the tables were written in both their sides. On one side and on the other were written. And the tables were the work of Elohim, and the writing was the writing of Elohim, graven upon the tablets. And when Joshua heard the noise of the people, that they shouted, he said unto Moses, there is a noise of war in the camp. And he said, it is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing do I do hear. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh to the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tablets out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made and burned it in the fire and ground it into powder, right? Right? So what I want you to see here is when Moses comes down with the tablets, that's the actual Shavuot. And lo and behold, Aaron had defiled it by making it a hog unto Yah and creating a calf to worship and saying, this is the God that brought you out of Egypt, which really upset the father. Okay. It's also the same time that the temple was destroyed, the second temple, in the month of Av. So it occurs to me, maybe, just maybe, and I'm trying to find a source for this, but I got a theory that one of the reasons why the rabbis decided not to first of all, they changed the feast. When the temple is destroyed, they change everything. But the timing of when that temple was destroyed is right at Shavuot time. So that, to me, it would seem like they would see that as a bad thing. Why would you want to commemorate a day where the temple's been destroyed both times? And both times, the month of Av. Okay? So, and that's the time that Moses came down and broke the tablets. They had defiled Yah's holy day by worshiping the calf. That's my theory. And it's the same time the temple was destroyed. And so what do? We sweep it under the rug. We don't want to commemorate that day. We're so ashamed, right? And it's also called the month of weeping. Why is that? Because of only the temple being destroyed? Well, it wasn't just the temple being destroyed, but also the feasts were destroyed because of that. And then so they have to start making things up, like keeping a feast at 50 days when you don't have any wheat, but you bake bread out of barley. Do you see where I'm going? What I'm talking about here? They don't keep Shavuot anymore, even though they call it Shavuot. Somehow or another, we get this new day called Pentecost, the counting of 50, and counting the Omer of 50. And by the way, the counting of Omer is like a Kabbalah thing. In Kabbalah, there's 49 steps. There's 49 steps. And then the 50th, it's a Kabbalah thing. It comes from the rabbinic tradition. Nowhere were we commanded to count Omers, first of all. We were supposed to be counting the weeks leading up to Shavuot. And to this day, it is lost. Yah has hidden. Not only is the moon hidden, but this feast has literally been hidden since the destruction of the temple. Almost like it was wiped off the face of the earth. And if it hadn't been for the wheat, and I wasn't the first to see this, by the way. I just happen to know something about grains and farming. And when I was learning about Pentecost and what that meant, because I came from a Pentecostal church, that's what I came out of. And so Pentecost was everything. Well, how can you have a wheat festival when there's no wheat? Oh, we'll make bread out of barley. That's what we'll do. We'll make bread out of barley. So stop sending me pictures of barley being harvested from Israel in May and saying it's wheat, folks. It's not. It's not wheat. It's barley. And I have it from the horse's mouth, from a guy that lives there, telling you at 50 days, they're harvesting barley and they're making bread out of barley now. They don't wave it at the temple, they just eat it. But there you go. Eureka! What do we do about it? What do we do about it? We just keep doing man-made traditions, right? Because I felt the very same thing when I figured out that Yeshua was not born on December 25th, right? I mean, that was one of my early eurekas, right? And then the whole Easter thing. Wait a minute. What? Okay, Eureka! I'm at that point now. So, so I appreciate you having patience with me on this whole thing. I'm a little bit obsessed with the calendar, and I admit that. And maybe there's a group I can attend. You know, my name is Jonathan, and I have an obsession with whatever. So, I hope this helps out, you guys. It's important to find this day. This is when Yah poured out His Spirit upon the people in the upper room, folks, and it's a special time. That experience, I want that experience. You know, I thought I'd had that experience because I grew up in the Pentecostal church, but that's not the experience I believe happened in that upper room. I think it was something supernatural that was going on, and physically there was flame. They were bathed in flames. You could see it coming off the top of their heads. It says that cloven fire, tongues of fire danced on their head. Right, that was the baptism of the Holy Spirit. That happened on the day that they sinned at the mountain. And by the way, 3,000 died after that when they're worshiping the cow. You guys remember that? What happens in the upper room at the same time, at Shavuot time? Oh, Eureka! 3,000 are saved. So Moses comes down, they're worshiping the cow, he destroys the tablets. That's the real Shavuot. 3,000 people dead. Fast forward to after Yeshua, 1,500 years later, what do we have? 3,000 added back to on the very same day. And in AD 70, and by the way, Yeshua prophesied that the temple would be destroyed. It happens in that very same season. Somewhere between Passover and Shavuot in that season. So the people would be celebrating festivals when they're watching the destruction of Jerusalem. And can you imagine seeing all the crops? Because the city is full of crops. The harvest season is nigh. It's at hand. And they're destroying everything. And by the way, Titus, to add insult to injury, Titus actually brought salt from the Dead Sea. Tons of it, tons and tons and tons of salt, and plowed all the orchards and all the fields with salt to starve the people, to make it to where the land was defiled and you could not plant crops in it, right? And that's taken 1,000 years to overcome because it was a desolate wasteland. Even when Mark Twain went there in the 1800s, Israel was a desolate place. It's not like it is now, right? So a lot has changed. So there you go. It's all because there's no temple, you guys. And I believe that the rabbis made a ruling after 70 AD when the destruction of the temple, and this is the second time it's happened, by the way. The temple was destroyed the same in off both times. And this is when we sinned at the mountain, worshiping the cow. They must be related. No more temple, no more Shavuot. We'll do something different. I rest my case, Your Honor. That's where I'm at on there. So we're going to continue our study in the Zadok. I'm still looking at that, you guys. Still studying. I kind of wanted to circle back to the actual calendar and compare and contrast some of the things that I see going on with the actual count and kind of rectify that. And so I've been literally talking about this since Passover, and it's something that I paused there because I don't like admitting it's a little bit obsessive, but I think in a good way. I would rather be obsessive about something like this and than something not so fruitful. Okay, more destructive kind of behavior. No, this is good. Studying the Word, immersing in His Word, and constantly talking to Him and seeking truth and trying to figure this thing out. So, Pentecost, Shavuot, not the same day. A lot of man-made traditions crept in, and we've got a mess after 2,000 years, folks. We got a mess that we have to sort out if we're going to get to the bottom of this. So that's what I got for you on this. I do have some other things coming up that I want to talk about. The Book of Jubilees, because we're getting a lot of bad information from that, and some that's their Bible, right? And so we're going to dissect that in a presentation I'm going to be sharing with you that I haven't seen a better one online. This guy does an excellent job on deconstructing Jubilees, and we're gonna look at that. We're gonna interact with it, and I got permission to do that. I've already told him that I'm going to use it because it's I couldn't do a better job myself, to be quite honest. I probably could, but it would take me a long time to put all that stuff together, and it's quite extensive because there's a lot of information to go through. But I will tell you, it's one of the best presentations I have seen on this conundrum that we have. And so I hope it edifies you and enlightens you, and you know, brings you into a place of understanding that we should not go outside the Word to build doctrine, and we should not take fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls to build doctrine. It's just not wise. So shalom to you. May Yah bless you. That's all I got for you. I'm going to go lay it down.